What is up, ladies and gentlemen? But most of all, you ladies out there, thanks for clicking on another episode of Break the Silence. I am your host, Cyborg. The NBA is back. Split cow! We just got done watching Game 1 of the 2022 NBA season between my Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, up front on this podcast, normally we're just going to talk about things very objectively and analyze the games, not really as much from a fan, not from a team fan perspective, a little more from just a fan of the NBA. Tonight, I am going to put on my fan cap a little bit, because for the last 6 weeks, I have watched my Cleveland Browns play some of the worst football ever. And I just needed this win tonight just injected right in my veins. Just like a drug, just right in the veins. So I needed this so badly. So if I'm a little excited, not only is the NBA season here, but my Boston Celtics finally gave me a win. And I just needed it, because my Cincinnati Reds were no good either. But let's get into this. We're going to talk about both teams. We're going to try to spend about 10-15 minutes talking about this game and break it down, because we got another game to watch, the Lakers and Warriors tonight. So, first half, dogfight of a game. 63-63 at halftime. James Harden played unbelievable. He played unbelievable for the whole night. Finished with, 35 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. That is an incredible night for James Harden. The big question mark, I think, for the Sixers coming into this season is, will James Harden be able to return to form and be that, maybe not even MVP caliber player, but top 10, top 15 caliber player that he was a couple years ago? And if he is playing at that level, then they're certainly a formidable foe. Now, tonight, I don't think that Joel Embiid played all that terrific. He finished with 26 and 15, which really is not that bad. But he was a minus 13, which was the worst on the team. And he just looked a little sloppy. Obviously, very early on, Joel Embiid was my pick for MVP if you watch my preview video. The Sixers I'm very high on. I think they'll finish with the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Even after tonight, I'm not going to overreact to one game of basketball. And that's what we got to be careful of early in the season, to not overreact to anything we're seeing. Let's look at what we're seeing, start to see if we can notice some trends, some patterns, and things that teams do well, things that they struggle on, and see how that develops throughout the season. Because you got to remember, moves will happen at the trade deadline. Guys will get injured. Guys will get in a rhythm. And so there's a lot going on. The Sixers added some pieces. They had PJ Tucker, DeAnthony Melton, Daniel House in the offseason. Tyrese Maxey played excellent tonight. He finished with 21. Like I said, Harden had 35 and Embiid had 26. Tobias Harris also gave you 18. But then beyond those four, you did not get much production. And that's what you worry about a little with the Philadelphia 76ers. Their top 4 guys are potentially the best the best group of 4 players of any team in the NBA. The Sixers kind of can boast that. And they were unbelievable tonight. You could put them up against any other team's top 4, and they're at least in that discussion. But other than that, PJ Tucker, he's not a high scorer. Off the bench, where are you getting points from? To be honest, I'm not sure where they're going to consistently get points. So that'll be the problem for the Sixers. We'll see going forward. You especially worry about injuries. If you're not that deep, then how do injuries affect your team? Harrell wasn't very good tonight. Melton didn't give you much. Niang and Daniel House didn't give you much at all. So overall, Sixers, very interesting. Their star players, Harden, Maxey played excellent. Embiid played all right, like I said. Now, the big thing about the Sixers can be very frustrating to guard. They draw a lot of fouls, and that's just, and I'm not someone who's talking about that in a negative light. I'm talking about how hard that is for the other team to guard, because Embiid is so physically dominant that you almost have to foul him sometimes to stop him. And one thing I will say, and again, I'm not getting into the flopping or anything like that, but Embiid falls to the ground on almost every play, and then he struggles with injuries in his career. I get that you're trying to draw fouls and things of that nature. don't fall to the ground every play. If you're an injury-prone player, it's just not worth it. Getting to the free throw line 2 more times a game is not worth you being out for 10, 15 games because you bruised something. Just my opinion on it. I'd like to see Embiid stay upright a little more. I love to see him work in the post. Love to see him work in that mid-range face-up game. And that's where I want to see Embiid work. And so we'll kind of see how this goes for the Sixers going forward. Obviously, all this stuff, 1 game in. Now, let's get into the Celtics a little bit here because, wow, their offense looked unbelievable. And one last note on the Sixers, their defense looked very shaky. I wonder if they start to play Matisse Thybulle some real minutes because they got to have someone out there that can guard on the wing. PJ Tucker usually does a pretty good job. He's starting to age. Obviously, Maxey and Harden are not known for their defensive prowess, and Tobias Harris is aging a little bit. But let's move on to the Celtics here. Malcolm Brogdon was a heck of an offseason addition. They basically gave up nothing. Daniel Tice, who, let me be honest with you, I was not a big fan of. Obviously, I rooted for him, cheered for him. He just, was a liability in a lot of ways. He was undersized as a big man defender. He wasn't a good shooter on offense, not really a great rebounder. Not really sure what Daniel Tice did. Fantastic. But they replaced him with Malcolm Brogdon. And obviously there were more parts to that trade, but there was a first-round pick for this upcoming season that more than likely won't be a good pick. Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown were on fire tonight. When those two play like that offensively, the Celtics are going to be gosh darn impossible to beat. They both gave you 35 points. Tatum was 13 of 20. Jaylen Brown was 14 of 24. Marcus Smart actually had a nice night with 14.7 assists. Now, like I was talking about, Brogdon giving you 16 points off the bench is a real asset. When the game started, I kind of had the thought in the first half, do you start Malcolm Brogdon instead of Derek White? So that'll be something to see interesting going forward. In crunch time minutes, I would kind of like to see Brogdon on the court because I think he does a great job running the offense, and he's just such a threat because he's so fast getting to the paint. So we'll see what the Celtics do there as far as their starting lineup going forward. But Brogdon is a really interesting addition to this roster and exactly what they needed. They needed one more little weapon there, and he absolutely seems like that guy. Now, Al Horford got in really early foul trouble. Obviously, guarding Joel Embiid is going to be tough. And I think that this is where I was a little worried about the Celtics. When you have Robert Williams out, your depth at the big man position is really limited. And they play Noah Vonleh a lot tonight. And, he did all right. He also had 4 fouls. So he kind of just came in and just kind of fouled Embiid a couple times. He gave you 2 points, 2 rebounds. So he didn't give you a lot. I was a little surprised with how much he played. Blake Griffin, I thought, played hard. Got some offensive boards early in that game, finished with 5 rebounds in 8 minutes, which, if he's in that limited role that I think Blake Griffin will be in, I think he can add some value as a veteran presence, hopefully in the locker room and on the court. Someone that plays hard can provide valuable minutes. Now, I'd like to see a little more from Derek White, and then I'd like to see him start the game a little hotter. The first quarter, they came out a little slow. They were down 5. Now, the big thing that we talked about last year with the Celtics that they had to turn around was turnovers. And that's why I thought the Brogdon signing was so massive, because you're talking about a guy who wasn't a high turnover guy like maybe a Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum were. So Brogdon can come in there, kind of command the offense, run the offense, make sure guys get in their spots, but also be a real scoring threat there. And that's what I loved. The team as a whole had 24 assists. That'll work. 24 assists, and let me see how many made shots. 46, not bad at all. And then didn't turn it over, finished with 11 turnovers. That was the big thing we talked about last year. Anytime they were over 16 turnovers, they almost always lost. In the first half, I was starting to have flashbacks because they played brutal for a little stretch in that first half where their offense just gets like really clunky and ISO heavy. So we'll see what happens there going forward. Defensively, not a lot of defense in this game. Final score is 126-117. So defensively, did not see a lot from either team tonight, and that's what we grew to love about the Celtics last year, was what they had one of the best defenses in the NBA. Part of the problem with these teams and particularly the Sixers tonight. Embiid does fall so much. Their transition defense is terrible. The Celtics got out and ran, and let me see if I can find their transition points real quick. Celtics had 24 fast break points to 2 for the Sixers. The Sixers got to clean that up. You can't give up 24. You can't lose a transition battle 24-2. You're going to lose a lot of games there. Celtics, I'd like to see them not get as close to these technical fouls as they're getting. Really brutal to watch that. I do think that technical that they called on Marcus Smart, when Embiid and Marcus Smart kind of got their arms tangled up, kind of ignited the Celtics, got them going because they were frustrated because it felt like Embiid was getting a lot of foul calls, and the Celtics started to get frustrated, and it really got them going, and they played excellent basketball. In the third quarter alone, I think Tatum had 18 points. If he can play like that for a quarter, Jaylen Brown can play like the way he did in the fourth quarter, they're going to be a tough basketball team to beat. I may have overestimated the value of Ime Udoka. In a playoff series, when coaching is so important, though, that's when we'll see the value of a coach. Talent can get you through the regular season, but coaching adjustments get you through the playoffs. So that's what's going to be interesting to watch with the Boston Celtics this season and going in to the postseason. We're a game in and I'm already talking about the playoffs. I'm pumped for this season. We got so much more to talk about. Let's go watch the Lakers-Warriors. We'll see who wins there. Probably the Warriors, but we'll talk about that after. Take a second to like and subscribe to the channel. Cyborg out.